Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. This week we have something that we have all kinds of new things actually happening here recently on the podcast. This week we have Logan Dre from the MMG squad, and we have Coach Jones. And Coach Jones, it's Greg Jones. We still call him Coach Jones, but he was Dre's and my high school football coach. And I feel like you have a pretty decorated career in football. So let's thank you for being here first off.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And I want to start off with what the story of Coach Jones is, where it all began.
In the great metropolis of waterproof Louisiana. Born and raised there. Dad was a cotton farmer, so from day one it was hard work. And it kind of just turned into athletics because basically it's like athletics. You get up every day and you focus on one day at a time because you never know what the next day is going to bring. So you taught that at a young age and you work sun up to sundown, and then, you learn the ins and outs, and went to high school there, and then Mississippi Junior College, and then off to the great Northwest Missouri State, and met some great people there. Met my wife there, and then she's from the Kansas City area, so happy wife, happy life, they say. So I was roped into this area, and this, Kansas City has been a great place for me to be, and people accepted me, and was blessed with great assistant coaches and great players, and everything went well.
What did it look like when you leave Louisiana, Mississippi area, and you show up at Northwest?
Well, I don't know if you've ever met a guy named James Godfrey, but he could probably tell you some stories because I didn't own a coat. The only coat I had was my Letterman's jacket. And it's kind of big down south. You don't wear socks. So I didn't have a pair of socks. So I rolled into Northwest Missouri State in January. You've been there. Yeah. So snow's all over the ground. So I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I'm throwing snowballs at everybody. And after about a week, I'm like, well, when's this stuff leaving? I'm tired of it. And they're like, for about another month and a half. So I went to the Army surplus, bought me a coat. And the coach is like, yeah, you got to get some socks too. So I went and got some socks, and then I learned how to speak proper English as much as I could get. And matter of fact, when I asked my wife out the first time, she was like just staring at me, and I'm like, say yes, no. And she's like, I had no clue what you were saying.
There was definitely some times in the locker room at halftime that you would be pretty fired up that it got to a spot where you didn't really understand what was coming out.
Yeah, when I get fired up, sometimes the old Louisiana twang comes back. But now my parents make fun of me, and they don't even recognize me, they say.
Like, oh, the city got him up there.
The city got me.
So you go to Northwest and then travel on to Kansas City. You land in Kansas City. What does that career start look like in Kansas City?
My first job was an assistant coach at Park Hill High School, and went in there and interviewed with John Settler, and I thought it went pretty well. And he called a day later and offered me the job, and I was there. And the head coach was Kelly Groom, who had been at William Jewell what do you call it over here? William Jewell for a little while, and then had came over there. And he was the head coach there 2 years and then left and went to Blue Springs South. And I was just having to be at the right place at the right time. And I was the defensive coordinator, and we had played well. And at that point in time, Park Hill was the biggest school in the state of Missouri because that's before Park Hill South was built. And at 27 years old, there I was, head coach. So it's like, oh boy, I'm about to find out a lot of stuff the hard way. So that's what we did.
So how long were you at Park Hill?
As a head coach 1 year, and then the next year Park Hill South was built, and they allowed all the head coaches at the school to choose which school they wanted to go to. So figured it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to open a school, pick out the uniforms, pick out all the pads. Instead of changing traditions, you were starting traditions. So almost every head coach at Park Hill went to Park Hill South, and so we went over there and got that thing rolling.
we weren't going to have Dalton on this podcast. And now, after the beginning of it, I feel like Dalton should have been.
Yeah.
So Dalton's from Park Hills. He went to Park Hill South. So I didn't know that you ever coached there.
Very first head coach there. I laid the matting in the weight room. Me and the players carried all the weights in. So,
And I feel like that's kind of a pillar of what you have done on all the programs you've taken from whatever it is to where they go to is the weight room. And I feel like that was something that Kearney had when we played, and even you took it to Liberty North, and I guarantee you had done it before, is the weight room was such a big part of what football was. And I remember talking to kids from other schools, and they're like, you guys are always working out. You're always doing something. And we just felt like it was the way it was supposed to be done. What instilled that level of training in your regimen of what you do?
Well, I think it went back really to Northwest because I was blessed. We had a great strength coach when I played there, Roger Britson, who kind of took me under his wings and kind of taught me a lot of stuff. And then when I was done playing and I was a GA, he left and took a head coaching job at Wartburg College. So as a GA, I was named the head strength coach at Northwest Missouri State. And so it was kind of just baptism by fire with that too. So I learned a lot of what to do and what not to do kind of the hard way in that. But the thing is, with any athlete, you get them in there and you train them and get better, but especially male athletes, when they see themselves being stronger and they see themselves physically change, then the psychology in the brain changes and they start thinking they can do more than they really can. And then it's just when you get a guy out there that's stronger and then he just imposes his will on people throughout the game, it's fun to watch.
Yeah. I remember when we went to powerlifting nationals my senior year, and everything was in kilograms, and no one knew how to count kilograms. So he's telling everyone weights, and they're going up there, and everyone's hitting PRs on everything that's 15, 20 pounds heavier. And then we get back and we start seeing the scores and everything. We're like, oh, what? He's like, I knew you guys could all lift more. It's just in your head. And he's
like, I know you can't count.
But it is something that I think that plays a huge factor in just that self-confidence in people too.
Fully agree.
So you're at Park Hill South. When did you leave Park Hill South?
I was there 4 years. So we was there. The first year there, we didn't have any seniors. Second year of the school, everybody was back. We went to the state semifinal games, lost to Camden at Camden. Probably one of the hardest fought games that I've ever. It was just a brutal battle. And that was back in the day before anybody had turf. So they had that Bermuda grass that was dead. So after every single play, this dirt's flying up in everybody's face. It was just one of those old school football games because they were just like us. They wanted to out physical you, just run over you. And that's when Bob Shores was there. But we were walking the team down the ramp to the game, and we're coming down. This lady's coming across. She's got a stroller, and she's walking with this walker. So I stopped the team, and I stop, and she walks right in front, and she turns, and she looks, and she goes, we're about to kick your city boys' ass today. That's about the way it went.
Then we kept walking, ran her over.
But it was pretty intense, but it was great. And then the next 2 years, we were 4A then we bumped up to 5A, and that's before they had 6A in Missouri. So 5A was the biggest. So we went up and Park Hill went down. And the only 2 games we lost those years were to Rockhurst, because that's when Rockhurst was in that. They were in our district. And I remember we lost 1 year to Rockhurst, 10-7. And the Kane brothers was Kevin Kane. He's defensive coordinator at Purdue now. But he lived in our district, came to youth camp, came to everything, then went to Rockhurst. I'm like, well, y'all just stayed here, we'd have won.
So you have this run at Park Hill South. What makes you leave Park Hill South and go move on?
Stupidity. Looking back, no, it was when I was there, the head basketball coach was from Fort Smith, Arkansas. And, me being from Louisiana, I'm like, all right, Fort Smith, Arkansas, Louisiana, Kansas City, boom, right in the middle. So this high school came open down there. It was in the 7A, which is the biggest classification in Arkansas. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just go down and interview. Well, I go down to interview, They got indoor practice facilities. They got stadiums with elevators in them. The guys like, you ain't going to teach. You're just going to coach football all day. I'm like, wait a minute.
Come again?
Yeah, exactly. So I drive down. I drive back, get home that night. He offers me a job. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. So I had to go in, break my contract with the Park Hill School District. And that's when I learned the hard way. Like I've learned a lot of things in my life the hard way. It's probably the best way to learn things. But that you never judge a book by the cover, you know what I'm saying? Because the cover of that book looked really good. And then you open that book and you start reading this like, oh, this thing ain't going as planned. So we stayed there about a year and a half. And my wife goes, I'm going back to Kansas City.
So what was the problem with that school?
I shouldn't say, you don't ever want to say there's a problem. There's just situations that didn't go the right way.
Yeah.
You know, like they said, I wasn't going to teach. Within the first day, they're like, well, everybody else thinks you should teach. So I got thrown in a classroom. They said, what do you want to teach? And I'm like, how about weight training? Well, they had the athletic period. So you can imagine what showed up for weight training. It wasn't athletes. But anyhow, it was hard. Like the way I like to do things and the way I had envisioned things being aligned wasn't the way they were aligned there. I think it shared a vision with them of how things needed to be aligned. And over years, eventually they got it aligned. I think now they're winning some games. But there was a stretch there after I left. They were not very successful. So it was a tough place. But they played in a tough conference too, though. I mean, the 7A West in Arkansas it's tough. It's a grind.
Yeah. I definitely feel like knowing you probably didn't do real well going into schools on, I don't know, just being hard-headed in what you do. And I mean, I'm very much the same way that like if somebody's telling you one thing, then they do something else. And like that happens enough times, it's going to push you to an edge pretty fast and probably push you into a different direction. So it pushes you right back to Kansas City. And where did you come back into Kansas City at?
Well, funny story with that. When I came back, I forgot what year it was when I came back, early 2000s. But that's when all the teachers were being rifted in Kansas City. Like teachers were losing their jobs because they didn't have enough money in the education fund. So two of the players that played for me at Park Hill South, the Wood brothers, their dad was the lead guy for Case Construction. So they did like for businesses and schools, they go in and put the temporary walls up. Mm-hmm. So he gave me a job. I'm like, in the air condition? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, let's go. So we're working like 4 10-hour days. I'm making money. So I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And plus, that should have been a reality show. You should have seen this family during the work. I'd have worked some days for free just to see this. But so anyhow, then I'm doing this. And then I know where Coach Cruz calls, who had worked for me. Also, the whole time I was in the Park Hill School District, he was my offensive coordinator. And he had taken the Ray Peck job when I left to go to Arkansas. So he goes, hey, the numbers are really high in this freshman class. We need another PE teacher. He said, I told him you take it. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I told him you take it. You need to be at work Monday. So got lucky, didn't interview or anything. I roll in there and I'm the freshman offensive line coach and teaching PE. So I did that for a year. And then the Odessa job opened. And then I took that for 2 years and then went to Kearney and back in the Northland.
Yeah. So you ran Kearney for how long?
11 years.
Was that your longest stretch with the school?
Yep.
I feel like you had a very dominant run, I feel like, at Kearney but then I feel like you backed it up too right when you left and you went to Liberty North. I feel like you turned Liberty North into, a pretty big force really quickly. So when did you go to Liberty North? 2017. So, and I don't even know if this is something you even want to talk about. What was the reason for leaving Kearney and going to Liberty North?
We're going to get real on it. Well, the thing that the teachers realize, but like in Missouri, your retirement is based off your highest 3 years of pay. And let's just say they offered some money.
Is it the highest 3 years or the highest last 3 years?
Highest 3.
Okay.
That makes sense. So,
and not that it was all money. There's also the temptation of, can you do what you've done at this 4A level? Can you do it at the 6A level?
Yeah.
Because everybody, and Coach Donahoe is a great coach, but everybody, Kelly Donahoe, well, he's at 6A. Well, okay, we've been pretty successful at Kearney.
Yeah.
But it's like, so you go in and you know, and the competitive part of you is, does what you do in a small town will it work in a bigger community?
Yeah.
So,
Do you feel that you had more leeway at the smaller town level than the big schools, or did they give you quite a bit of leeway in what you did?
well, at Kearney, everybody, I felt like in a smaller school district like that, like everybody understands, and like I could go to Dr. Nicey's house. You could just go to the superintendent's house and have a conversation with him about something. You're not going to do that in Liberty. But Dr. Jacobs, the principal that hired me, and Bob Cornell, the guy that hired me, they knew what they wanted there, and they had seen it 10 miles down the road. And I got lucky and I'm like, look, I got 5 to 6 years before I can retire. I don't have 11 years to prove to you it can be done. This is what needs to be done. If you'll do it, I'll come. If not, I ain't coming. And got lucky that they both said, do it your way. We got your back.
Yeah. Because I feel like also in today's world, I feel like generations coming up, and I feel like my generation is kind of the start of like the soft ass generation, that kids are just different now, that you yell at one of them, they throw a fit, go home, tell mom, tell dad, and now Coach Jones is an asshole because he yelled at my kid. I feel like you didn't really deal with that at Kearney that much, or you might have. It might have just been behind closed doors that I didn't know. Like, I think sometimes going to bigger schools that you get this diva, and also I feel like the younger generations coming up are just getting worse and worse with, they've never been told no in their life, and everything's their way all the time. And I don't feel like you really run a ship that way.
You know, we kind of got, and I say we because I had some great coaches that came with me, but, you know, there was some resistance at first. And once they found out you weren't going to change, I mean, they pretty much said, okay. And plus they had seen the success where we'd been at. So the ones that wanted it stayed, and the ones that didn't left, and you didn't want them anyhow because you weren't going to win with them.
Yeah.
So, you know, the kids that were freshmen when we got there were the ones when they were sophomores. That's when it all switched, and we went semifinals. So, you know, they had seen it. We just had to get rid of the ones that hadn't seen it.
Yeah. So then you go to Liberty North, you stamp on that, and then you step into the college level. Is Oregon the first time ever step into the college level?
Since coaching at Northwest, yeah, because I was 2 years GA at Northwest, and then in the spring I was a full-time assistant, and then it was either stay at the college level or go to high school, and it was just, for me at that point in time, I thought I'm going to go try this high school thing out for a little bit.
Did you think the high school route held more opportunity in it?
I think at the time it was good for me because at Northwest I was always viewed as the player, you know, always, because I'd played there. So when everybody wanted to talk about, oh, remember this play or remember this, it's like you're trying to move past that. And then plus some of the players that you're trying to coach, 2 years ago you were playing with them. So you know what I'm saying? So it's just different. It was good for me to leave and get away from some of that, and, you know, cliche saying, but spread your wings and go fly on your own a little bit.
And that's something I've had the discussion with a lot of people on like a coaching level, on people asking like why I thought you were a great coach with where you were at. And I always think the way you ran it, guys that were playing, they were friends with you, but they still weren't like over the top friendship. There was still like a respect level that I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes coaches, I feel like, cross that line a little bit too far, that they become too good of friends. I think that's probably where that Northwest space had an issue, being the player, where you didn't have that totem pole fully built out, where it's like, hey, I'm here, you're here. And I think there needs to be that totem pole of how it's going to work.
Well, you want your players, just like being a boss or an employee, you know, you want your employees to be able to come. I've always said, when your soldiers can't bring their problems to you, you're no longer the leader. So you want your players to be able to come to talk to you about things that are happening in their lives, you know, no matter what's going on. But at the end of the day, I'm not hanging out with you on the weekend and you ain't hanging out with me. I mean, there's a lot, you know what I'm saying? There's a line there.
Yeah.
So I've always said I'm a player. I'll always have the players back. Because I ain't making any tackles anymore.
Yeah.
They're the ones going to make the tackles and score the touchdown. So they've got to know that you're there for them, just like they're going to be there for you. It's a give and take thing. It's like running a bank account. You put money in, you take money out. You put money in, you take money out. The more money you put in, the more money you can take out.
It's a good way to put it.
Good analogy.
Yeah. So how long were you at North for?
5 years.
5 years. And then, so last season was at Oregon. Right?
Yep.
Okay. What was that transition like, or how did that decision come along to try the college level or to take that step?
Well, Coach Lanning and I, the guy that took the job, when he came out of Jewel, he was my student teacher at Kearney. Okay. And he and I just hit it off from day one. I mean, you could just tell he was going to be awesome, just the drive he had and the energy he had and the way he related to students. And then we just always stayed in touch. So no matter where he went, like when he was at Bama as a GA, I'd go to Bama for games. And then, he went to Georgia as the DC. I'd go hang out. When we'd have spring break, I'd just go spend my spring break at Georgia with him. So we just always stayed in connection, and he knew when I could retire. And then so when he took the Oregon job, he's like, I know you can retire. So, I went out there as an analyst with him, and then it was basically a football sabbatical. Learned a lot. It's like, and it's like I tell everybody all the time, I don't care how, there's two words I always try to live by: humble and hungry. And when you lose the hunger, that's when you become dead and you're dying. You know what I'm saying? You're either green and growing or dead or dying. So it didn't matter that you've coached for 30 years, you still don't know it all. Yeah. And I think that's what's made like Coach Saban great. That's what made Bill Snyder great, is they continue to change with the game. It's the guys that, no, this is the way you do it because this is the way we've always done it. Those are the guys that have died off, and, the new way that you play football is past them. So for me, it was just a great, great learning experience, from recruiting to every facet of it.
Yeah. It's crazy how similar it is across every avenue of life with that, because we do marketing for a living, and business owners are the exact same way. You'll run into the business owner that's been in business for 30 years and it's their way or the highway, and they're not, up with times, and they wonder why their business is dying. And it's a little bit sad at times.
It really is.
The ones that are successful and change with the times are the ones that never stop learning, stay hungry for it, and continue to push.
Yeah. And it's hard when you watch it from a business space where you have people that have been in business for 30 plus years, and you sit at a table and they're a know-it-all and they can't learn anymore. And then they're sitting at a table with a bunch of people still in their 20s that we've been in business for less than 3 years. And I'm like, we've done 5 times what you've done in 30. But it's just because we focus every single day on what we can learn, what we can do to progress forward. Right. Like, that is how you have to run it. And that's the same thing in football. It's the same thing in anything that you're out there to do. And I feel like that we always talk about happiness is found in progression. And that's if you are progressing in the weight room, if you were progressing on the field, if you were progressing in business, if you were progressing in your relationship, whatever it is, you have to be progressing forward. And I feel like when you stop and you lose that hunger, that's when you're dying. Like, I feel like it stops and you start. A lot of people think like maintaining is a word. I don't really even like use that. There's no such thing.
Well, it's like you're saying, you keep using the word progress. And so everybody wants progress, but they don't want the change that comes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because change hurts. You know what I'm saying? So change means there's things are going to be different, and a lot of people don't handle that well.
A lot of people are scared of change because it comes with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And people are terrified of being uncomfortable. If you can get to where you can live in an uncomfortable state all the time, it's crazy what life can turn into. And it's on everything. That you're going to get uncomfortable if you're learning a new position, if you are pushing yourself in the weight room, if you're pushing yourself in business, you're going to get uncomfortable. And people are so scared. It's funny when you like start taking down that line of, you can take one word and then what leads to that word. Then people are scared of change. Why are people scared of change? Because they get uncomfortable. And it's like, why are people uncomfortable? Because they have fear. Like, and it all leads back to something. And it's like, I look at fear as like not being a thing. Fear is made up in your head. Danger is real. Fear is not.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, I feel like people put this stuff in their head and you probably deal with it all the time with the mass amount. I feel like you are at a pivotal point in a lot of men's lives, that some of which don't have a father figure there to help point them in the right direction. And you're there to help them have some of those principles that they need. So what do you think, like, on that side of it, what do you think the most like rewarding part of being a coach at the high school level has been?
I think it's that when you see Like the young man is like 8th graders, 9th graders, and then how much they change between then to like their senior year. And like you're talking about, like not only as players, but just as humans and the growth that they've done. And then when you see the ones that, you know, that go off and be successful and do great things, it's just like, you know, you feel like you were a part of that, you know, and it's great. Like I get text messages all the time, like from guys that are, you know, like Kel Garrett's in the military now. And he's just like, man, all that stuff we did, all that running Dovecot Hill and all, it's like, you'd be surprised mentally how that stuff just kicks in sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like just that part of the things that you've done, that's like, if you can get through this, you normally get through anything.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, I think athletics are very important for people on learning how to push their head. That take the athletic side out of it, take whatever games are won, take all that side out. What do you learn on actually pushing yourself mentally? That I look at a lot of very high level successful business people that they have learned at some point to push themselves mentally. And I think at that age when you see the guys that are really good at pushing themselves on a mental aspect, a lot of times it transitions over into something in the real world. Like Cale Garrett, for instance, like that dude's probably blowing everyone out of the water fitness wise in the military. Like that dude's probably showing up and they're like, God damn it, he's here again. Like, but it's just one of those deals because he's just pushed himself so much all the time. That's just second nature to him. It's not hard. That's not uncomfortable anymore for him.
Right.
Where that other guy, it's really uncomfortable for what he's doing, but he hasn't put in the reps that Cale has. So I think that plays a huge piece of that.
Yeah. And then the other thing that, you know, that I was lucky with, and that the administration where I was at the last probably 15 years of my career let us structure the thing where really you didn't get away from us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was like, it wasn't just we came to season and then we'll see you next season. It was like, no, you're going to be in weight training year round. So we're going to see you every day and we're going to check your grades.
Yeah.
And you're going to be here. And you're going to be here before school, and you're going to be here during school. And if you're not out for another sport, you're going to be here after school. So it was, you know, you just got the support, and then the families that bought into it because they saw the success. So you really got to, like, again, build that bond and be more than just a football coach.
And I think you hit a nail on the head. Something that you do that a lot of administrations don't do is where you were in contact with them year round. Where I told people, I'm like, yeah, on off season you had to be in either weights or play a second sport.
Off season was like 3 days.
No, but it was like
that was like your equipment drop off.
You got
Yeah.
Christmas off.
yeah. But it was funny, like when you were telling people that, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, how did like your football coach require you to do other things? I'm like that was just part of it. Like we
didn't require you. We afforded you the opportunity.
Yeah. Highly recommended. Very, very highly recommended. But I think things like that where you keep your hand on it, like I think it makes it where people don't slide into those bad habits.
Yep.
People have those habits that just, like I remember when we got to college, like there was a whole group of us that came from Kearney. And like everyone was in the weight room like every day. It was like Kearney rolled in, and there was like all the Park Hill South guys. And there was like 2 huge groups of us that showed up. And we all met each other in the gym. And it was funny because we're all there just all the time, like working out. It was just like routine. It was like never skipped a beat. And then all these other people like are showing up. They're like, why are you guys always working out? Like doing it. Like, I'm like, that's just what we do.
We aren't actually in there 4 times a day. We're only in there twice. So it's different.
But so you hit Oregon and now you're back to Kansas City and you're at UCM, correct?
Yep.
How are you liking it there?
Good. Be surprised, but Warrensburg is a lot like Maryville, small college town, loves the college. Everybody there, you know, mule flags are everywhere, just like the Northwest, flags are everywhere. So it's like, you know, I mean, the MIAA is a great conference, but it's a good place, really good place. Support's really good.
What's your, are you the DC there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Defensive coordinator and work with secondary.
Gotcha. So what's that transition back to? So you were an analyst at Oregon?
Yep.
Right.
So I did, so you're an analyst. So basically what you do is you do a lot. Everybody's got a thing that they're in charge of, but so you're in charge of whatever breakdowns. But then I helped coach Matt Powledge, who's now the defensive coordinator at Baylor. I was his assistant. He was the safeties coach. So I worked hand in hand with him, just getting everything ready for the safeties and But as an analyst, like at practice, like you can't be on the field, you know.
Gotcha.
So you're there and you help with the practice script and help getting everything ready. You're limited on what you can and can't do.
Gotcha.
And then on game days, you have like my job on game days. Like most people don't understand because they go like in high school, you have video on the sideline. You go to the Chiefs games, you see all that, and they got the iPads and stuff on the sideline. Well, in college, there's no video allowed on the sideline.
Yeah.
So it's back to the old days. So you're drawing these plays up as they're happening. So you're drawing the plays. So I drew the part of the play that happened on one sideline. Another analyst drew it from the other sideline, and then in between series, we would meet, put the plays together draw them together, and then take them to the defensive coordinator.
Gotcha.
So he could look at them.
That's cool. Was that transition hard from head coach, you know, kind of controlling everything, being the guy, to kind of, you know, having a supportive, you know, more of a like a, I don't know the right word for it. Was that a hard transition or?
It was at first. Well, to be truthful, it probably was the whole time. But I'm kind of a take charge person.
I don't see you like doing that job real well, like explaining what you're doing there. I'm assuming you're probably running full speed down the sideline, telling somebody to do something.
So, but you know, once I figured out, or once the rule didn't pass where the analysts weren't going to be able to actually coach, and it absorbed through my, you know, thick head, I just took the mindset that, hey, I'm going to be up here around some great football. You got Coach Lanning, who's defensive coordinator of the year. You got Tosh Lapointe, who's been in the NFL. You got all these guys with all this knowledge. I'm just like, I'm going to soak up as much knowledge as I can. You know, you got Kenny Dillingham, who's the head coach at Arizona State now. I'm in there asking him questions all the time. So I'm like, I'm about to learn as much football as I can learn. So that's what I did. I just flipped my mind. Like you said, you just got to be comfortable, get your mind right. Because once you get your mind right, you can do anything. So I just flipped it to a script. It's like I'm at a football clinic all day long, 7 days a week.
That's what
14, 16 hours a day.
That's what separates great leaders and coaches from ones that just aren't and don't make it, is the willingness to kind of, you know, take a situation and take the positives out of it and learn and just absorb stuff.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Well, there's always a positive in every situation. It's just how people look at it. People either keep their eye on the negative or they keep their eye on the positive. And it's like, when you look at that, a lot of times people do get into a room with a bunch of people that are smarter or have done more, things like that. I strive to try to put myself in those rooms. Like, there comes one thing from that, and it's you learning. And the more you can learn, the faster you progress forward. It's like I'm guaranteeing there'd be tons of coaches in the country that would give anything to have that opportunity. They'd pay for that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And like, going to do that, that's probably something that's a highlight of, I would look at something like that if I've done it for business stuff, that I've paid to go sit in rooms with people that know more than me. Just if I can get that like one nugget or something that can make me better. So it's like going to do that and then coming back. I'm assuming you're probably 10 times more comfortable and more confident in what you're doing now than ever before.
Yep. You just learn like the new, you know, the little things of what they're looking for, the games within the games. And again, you know, it's kind of a little funny story, but when I got there, it was almost like I went back to college again. I was literally sleeping on a couch for like the first month. And then Coach Lanning comes in and goes, hey, everybody's got to move out of this donor's house. He's coming back. Y'all better find some place to live. And we're all looking around. And then there was this GA there who had been at Alabama. He's like, well, Coach, I got an extra room. You can just live with me. I'm like, oh, man, you don't want me to live. He's like, seriously. So I move in with this guy, and I'm living with him. Well, he ends up going back to Bama. So back to, it's like the people you meet in your life. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm down at Alabama getting to sit in a defensive staff meeting and talk football with Coach. Like, I'm sitting here, and this is Coach Saban right where you're at. I mean, it's just, again, like, all I wanted was a picture, but just being in the prep, you know, that guy's a legend.
Yeah.
You know, but those are people the people you've met in your life that has allowed that to happen.
That's pretty cool. I think everything I tell everyone all the time, you're exactly where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be there. And every single thing in life happens for a reason. And that brings you back here. You're rocking and rolling. Let's go more into what do you think the hardest part about coaching is, from just overall like a personal aspect of like I feel like it'd be difficult having a group to come through, then they leave, and then like they continuously leave. Like, is that hard, or is it just like part of the process of it?
It's hard and it's fun at the same time. It's hard because you have those relationships and then they leave, but then it's twofold because one, you get to see them leave and go be successful, and then two, it's like you get to put the puzzle together again. And every time you put the puzzle together again, you have to do it a different way, because each group is going to have a different skill set, and that, like, especially when you're in high school, that's the thing that's fun about it is like, all right, this group is more talented as this, so we need to do it this way. This group's more talented. So again, just being able to have the flexibility of changing, and doing those type deals is, I think that's what allows you to win. If you say, we're going to do it this way because we've always done it this way, and y'all are going to do it this way, then a kid that's, that's like asking an elephant to climb a tree. He ain't going to do it. He can move the tree, but he ain't climbing it. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta play to the athlete's skill sets.
Makes sense.
Has that ever been something where bringing a brand new group together? Like, I know we had nights where the team came together, but has been bringing those different groups together, like bringing all the pieces into the same puzzle, been a challenge in the past?
I think that's the challenge. To me, that's the fun part of the challenge, whether it be athletics or a business. It's the same thing. Like if you're running a business, if you can't get all your employees on the same page, you're not going to last very long. So like it's the same thing in sports. You all have to be on the same page, and it's a give and take type thing because, for example, at down at UCM, I'm the only guy that's ever ran this defense that we're running right now. So you got, a veteran defensive line coach that is very good. He just has to learn different techniques of how it fits into the scheme. So it's fun for him because it's challenging, but at the same time he has to change. We got a linebackers coach that played in the NFL. He's a great linebackers coach, but again, he's got to see, getting it to see the vision and, this is how it all clicks in this, and then you got a secondary coach that was with the Chiefs last year, and it's like, oh, well, all right, but this is how it all comes together. So it's just putting that puzzle together. And again, it's like I told them the other day, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. If your way's better, let's do it your way. Because back to green and living again, it's like I want whatever's best for us. Again, I think if you ever go in, it's like, this is how we're doing it no matter what. It ain't going to last very long because there's always a better way. There is always a better way. You just got to find. I mean, again, being down there with Coach Saban, as long as he's done it, they're always looking for new and inventive ways to do things. Always.
So I think something that you touched on there is there's great players that play the game, but I don't think that always correlates to them being great coaches. I think there's a lot of people that understand the game. And I think as a leader, same thing with management and business. Very much there's people that can be great at what they do. Now, take it to the car business. There's some great sales guys out there that will never make a good manager because they don't know how to manage a group of people that are all different. And I think that is a skill set of coaching. I think about 90 high school guys, the amount of different people that are in that group and how you have to run that and be able to really lead and put a vision out there for all of them to go chase. And to, like you said, get them on the same page. That is a skill set in its own that I think that is probably one of the biggest factors of a great coach and a great leader is having that vision and having everyone follow to that vision. That I don't know Nick Saban, but like I know who he is. I don't personally know him. I have guys sit at a table with him, but I guarantee you, like when he says something, they know that he is doing it out of where they are going. So he probably has no problem with a coach following him, players following him, anything. They know exactly what that vision is and where he's going to where everyone falls right in line with what it is. And I think there's a lot of guys that try to use the weight of, hey, I was a great player, so I know how to do this. Like you said, it can be done a different way. This may be a more effective way to do it, more efficient way of doing it, a more successful way of doing it. But because they did it that way, they believe that that's the way it should be done. So I definitely think that's a huge like leadership trait that great coaches have over not so great coaches.
You got to always, like you're saying, you're hitting a key word there is your vision. You got to always share that vision. I mean, and that's the deal. You got to share it with the parents. You got to constantly remind the players why you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Because again, if you come into the weight room in January and go, all right, we're just going to get after it till August, you get to play some football. That's a long time. So, but it's a constant reminder of why you're doing it. But you got to always share that vision. You know, and I did some motivational speaking for a while, but it's like I was telling, like you're talking about, it's like, so you take it, you know, my last year at Liberty North, all together, 8 through 12, we probably had 300 players in the program. And then, so you take those 300 players, they're, you know, so they got parents. So now, you know, you're at 600. And then I had 25 coaches and they got families. So I said, really, if y'all want to get technical, every morning I wake up, 800 people have to have a great day for me not to have any problems. So you tell me how many days in America 800 people are not going to have any problems. So again, like you're saying, I mean, it's the being able to handle all that and understand that it's all right, here's, you know, it's like Christmas. Every day you wake up, it's going to be a different present. Some are good, some are bad. But here you go, and you got to deal with them.
So I know always on your football programs, there's always a slogan for every season. And that is something that I don't see a lot of coaches do that. I see it at some higher levels, but I always saw it at like our high school level. What is the process behind that?
Well, really, you know, we started, and again, I think every good coaches are thieves. So I don't even forgot who I stole that from, but it was a coach down in Oklahoma, the leadership council, where you have a group of players that come in and they're on the leadership council or whatever. So it just started where they started picking them, and, you know, it became a thing where they would get in groups of 2 and present, and they would present to the group, whichever one that was the best that presented it, and they had the reason why. And I always presented one too, by the way, and I was pretty good at PowerPoints. But you know, we would go and then they'd vote on it, and then that would be the motto of the year. But and I mean, again, it's funny how it's almost like every year they were like, by something had happened in that year, there was like, I guess we picked the right one this year.
Yeah,
you know.
I think that by itself, because it's on shirts, it's on everything, like year round. I think that is something that very much puts that vision right there in front of people every single day.
Every day. That
they have that motto. They have something that it's like, that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's what pushes us the extra reps in the gym today. That's what pushes us for the extra running today. And granted, you don't get that out of everyone. There's some people you can give them all the motivation in the world. If they don't want it, they'll never take it. And you definitely have some of those people that are just blah. And it carries on to their life afterwards. And I think a lot of times those are people that just have excuses for everything. And life has just always done them wrong. And it's always someone else's fault. And it's because of that mentality. And
energy vampires.
Yeah, they are. And I very much run my life that my life is 100% the way I want it to look. If it goes bad, it's my fault. If it goes good, it's my fault. Anyway, in between, always my fault. There's no such thing as excuses in life. And I feel that so many people that good, bad, and different, whatever it is, it's always your fault. And too many people fall in that rut of just making excuses. And I feel like you never put up with that shit. Like even at a high school level, which is a wake-up call for a lot of people. And I feel like that played a big part in kind of that culture that you built with a team year over year.
Well, again, it's like it goes back to, not to sound cliche, but when you're growing up and your dad's a farmer, it's like you're getting the weeds out the crops, or the crops aren't going to be any good. You can't sit there and say, well, this is why the weeds are in the crops, or this is why if it's cocoa birds in the soybeans, you're not going to get as much money for them. So you better find a way to get them out, you know? And I mean, I've said that over and over again. Coaching is just like farming. You got to get up, you got to farm every day, because the culture of your program can change overnight too. If you're not every day, you better be ready to pump energy into it, because it's living, it's breathing. Because it's people. Anytime you're dealing with people, I mean, it's going to be, you're part of it. It's alive, and you better be willing to do the work. But I mean, again, there's the other part of that. Like you said, there's a great thing that people's got to understand is you're going to fail in life.
That's a guarantee.
I still got more failure ahead of me. I promise you, I'm going to fail more. But if you blame others, you're not going to learn from it. So therefore you cheated yourself out the opportunity to get better from it. Because now I'm blaming you instead of going, oh, this is what I did wrong. I should have done this. And then you learn from it.
Yeah. I look at your biggest failures are your biggest steps forward. And once again, you can look at everything as a positive or a negative. And sometimes there's a lot of people that just look at the negative side of how it happens. And looking at the positive side of it, that failures are a good thing. They're a guarantee. But make sure you adapt, you change, and you learn why it happened, and just don't do it again. Like, our dad was never mad at us if we – now, granted, if Dre was, like, crashing
Let's
shit.
not say we. He was mad at me sometimes.
Yeah, he was mad at Dre sometimes when he would, like, crash stuff. But, like, if we if we did something wrong, and he always called it, like, lack of knowledge to lack of execution. If there was a lack of knowledge on it and we failed at something, we figured it out, and then we learned, and then we just didn't do it again. But then if it was a lack of execution, then he was pissed. He's like, you knew not to do that, and you still did it again. So there was a fine line of if, like, Dad was mad at us or not. If it was a knowledge side, he was never mad if we didn't have the knowledge. And he taught us that when we got in the car business, that I'd have new salespeople come in. I'd be pissed that they did X, Y, Z. And my dad would be the one that would, like, bring me back down, of all people. He's like, did they know how to do that? I was like, no. He's like, well, you haven't done a good job at training them. He goes, lack of knowledge, lack of execution. He told me that shit all the time. When I got in the car business, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But now it's like I use it in business every single week. So you said you did some motivational speaking. What was that about?
Just a little bit, just talking about, I talked to some real estate companies and stuff just on, at first when I did it was like the real estate market wasn't very good. So it was getting people motivated to go out and understand that every day ain't going to be perfect. And you're going to have to deal with some obstacles in life. And then it turned into the 3% financing. So then they got swamped and they were like football coaches and they're not sleeping at all. So then it's like how you got to manage your life, and you got to live in this little box. Like what needs to be done now, what can be done later, what you can delegate, and what, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it ain't that big a deal. But so just that kind of stuff, just how to manage time and people, like you're saying, because at some point in time, it doesn't matter what business you're in, it all comes back to dealing with people. Because everything deals directly. People are what keeps businesses and teams and corporations and everything moving. So you got to be able to handle people.
I tell Dre and everyone in Moss Marketing Group all the time, I think one of our biggest, it's something I used to look at as like a negative, was the car business. And now I've looked at it as like probably one of my biggest wins, was it gave us so much of that people aspect. It gave us a level of learning customer service that most people never learn in a lifetime. And we learned it in a very, very short, quick period of time because it was just such high level every single day.
And you're seeing so many people every day where it's like, hey, that person left. They were pissed. Next person walks in. You better put a smile on.
Yeah.
Because you're not about to ruin their car buying experience. That's one of their largest purchases. That should be one of the happiest times is why they're buying a car.
Yeah.
So it's like pivot, adjust, and roll with it.
But learning that people aspect of it holds so much weight to it. And I don't think a lot of times people focus on becoming better at that in life. They want to learn more about analytics, how to build spreadsheets or do something, which I feel that if more people focused on just how humans operate, it would get them a lot farther. If they understood people's body language, if they understood people's facial expressions, that I can be in a conversation, I can tell really quick how the conversation is going by someone's body language, to how they're speaking, to their tone, that where I need to navigate to, where a lot of times there's people that just have no earthly idea where they're at in a conversation. I'm like, how do you not know this? Like, how can you navigate a conversation so poorly? And I don't think enough people focus on learning more about just people and interactions.
No, I'm a firm believer in that. I've always told the athletes, like, anything that's a hot topic with, where we're going to be honest, open, and transparent about, we're having that thing face to face. Because like you said, just body language, facial expressions, you can say yeah, or you can say yeah, it's a whole different deal. So it's like, no, we're having that thing eyeball to eyeball. And but it's like you're saying, I mean, it's just the people you deal with and just how you interact with people, and realize that it's always funny. Like people is like, well, I'm gonna be self-employed, so that way I don't have to deal with people. Well, really, who's gonna buy your goods? You're gonna deal with people no matter what.
You're gonna be dealing with more people at that point.
Yeah. If anybody thinks they're gonna go be self-employed and deal with less people,
exactly.
good luck.
Yeah. The only guy that's probably that don't deal with a lot of people, and I ain't looking forward to seeing him as a mortician. And I don't,
He probably sees more people than you.
But
they don't talk back.
Their facial expressions, he can change them if he wants to.
Oh, you know what? He's pretty happy with me today.
Oh, yeah, I can make him happy. Or he's gonna piss me off.
Yeah. So, where are we at on time, Ricky? We doing good? 54. Oh, wow.
I want to know what kind of led you into the motivational speaking. Like, how'd that even come up?
Well, it was kind of weird. One of the parents whose sons played for me is like, I just get so fired up coming to these parents meetings. It makes me want to play football. She's like, I'm going to have you out to speak to our real estate company. And then I went to that one, and it parlayed. Somebody was there, had me, and it just kind of snowballed.
Was it just kind of like, yeah, let's roll with it? Or were you like, nah?
Why not? It's the off season. You know me, I get bored quick.
I
don't like to sleep, so.
I actually think you would do really well in doing that. That I feel like there's motivational speakers out there that aren't very good at holding an audience, and I feel that you can hold an audience pretty quick. And like you said, you're getting people that don't even play football. They're like, yeah, I want to play.
That's right.
Like sitting out in the crowd somewhere that I think you would hold a lot of weight doing that and have a lot of success. Go more into depth, because I know on motivational speaking, you talk for how long were those sessions that you were going in for?
Hour.
So on an hour, I know you can't just talk about being positive a little bit more in a day for an hour. What else? Like what were you hitting on, like topic wise on those?
Just some of it was organizational, how to organize your day, how to handle failure, and then you share stories, because everybody likes to learn through stories. It's like watching a movie, you learn through it, and you share your life experiences. I mean, again, I think I am where I am today because I have reached almost rock bottom times in my life. I mean, heck, my parents, my senior year, well, I guess it'd been my freshman year of college. I mean, we went bankrupt. So I was the dude in college that had one pair of jeans until I won the second pair of blue jeans I had in a poker game. Like the dude, we were playing poker and he lost. He went all in and he lost. And I'm like, no, you're going to pay. He didn't have the money to pay. I'm like, what size are those jeans? and they were the Guess jeans with the little fancy things on the side. And I'm like, I'll take those. So I took his jeans. And every time we clean my closet out, my wife's like, we're throwing these. I'm like, oh, heck no, you ain't throwing these away.
Those are going to get framed.
Exactly. Those are a reminder of where I was at one point in my life. But it's just, and you share those stories that it doesn't matter that you went to Arkansas and you were winning and you fell right on your face again. And then here you got to come back and crawl again before you could walk. I went from being a very, very successful head coach in Kansas City to being the freshman offensive line. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're going to get knocked down. And it's like, I think people need to hear that sometimes and all right, if he can do it, I can do it type deal. So you just share your stories and then give them guidance and plans. And, I saw he's got the coffee bean thing over there. What a great little book that thing is, just talking about a guy that went to prison and he could have sat in there and cried the blues or whatever. But again, back to the mindset that you got to train your brain to lock in and this is how I'm going to handle this. And he made something positive out of it.
Yeah. And I think I very much enjoy the motivational space on, it just plays a role in everything. And it doesn't just play a role in football or athletics. And it plays a role in someone's personal relationship. Like one of my biggest problems one of my biggest reasons for leaving the car space was because the person it was turning me into at home. I wasn't the right person I was supposed to be for Madison. And I was becoming cold. I was that negative mindset was sitting in. I just had so much of it beating against my head all day, every day, that I would come home and she'd be excited to see me. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. I was like, I've been talking to people all day. And it was weighing more on that side that I pretty much, after 3 full years, and I was like, I'm either going to trade Madison, my family, everything for money, or I'm going to go find something else to do. And it's rock bottom doesn't always have to be a finance rock bottom. There can be a rock bottom. I've seen people with millions of dollars hit rock bottom harder than anyone. I've seen people at the highest financial status lose every friend they have, significant other. Their kids don't want to talk to them. You want to talk about a hard rock bottom? Think about being able to go out in a day and buy anything you want, but there's not a single person that wants to be around you. That's a tough spot to be in. And I've seen that happen to people that like, that's the hardest thing I focus on is like finances are one thing, but it's like, I care more about like relationships and the people that are around me. And I have prioritized that way higher than I have money.
Nope, it's good. I've always talked about like with our assistant coaches, like whether I could, and I stole it. I heard it. I forgot what college coach talked about it, but he had the thing like coming through his garage, walking into a house, he had a thing above there, like how you slap it going down on the field. He just slapped it going into home. It's like just a switch. I'm at home now. I'm gonna be a different person. I'll deal with this stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's no matter what profession you're in, anything you do. Like I tell, it's still there. It's going to be there tomorrow. Football's going to be here next year. It's going to be here the year after. Whatever job and profession you have, it's going to be here next year. It's going to be here forever. And it's like something happens to you, they're going to replace you. As much as valuable as you think you are, people are replaceable.
Now, that's the one thing that's different at the college level than high school. It's like you are on call because when recruits call, you got to answer.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing. Because if you don't answer and this school answers, well, then that might be what you may lose them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that part of it is a little different. And I know, you know, you're out at dinner with your wife and the phone goes off, and especially if it's an underclassman, because you can't call them, they can call you, but you can't call them. So it's like you have to answer.
That's kind of difficult.
It is different, especially when they're a 5-star and this dude's being hunted by everybody and they're calling you. You better answer.
Yeah, no, it's 3 a.m., but what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, they'll test you. Trust me. When you tell them, like, hey, you can call me anytime you want, they'll call like that and they'll go, I'm just testing you.
Hey,
Coach.
I just want to see what you're doing. I didn't need anything.
I'm testing you.
I'm eating some ramen noodle right now, sitting on the
I'm
couch.
testing you. All right. You know,
I wasn't asleep. It's fine.
So what would you say the most pivotal point in your whole entire career was? Like, is there like one thing that kind of stands above the rest?
was probably marrying my wife.
Hey,
Good answer. Good answer.
She's put up with a lot.
I will say that is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, that I was not on the straight path when I met Madison. She probably should have just ran the other way.
I was a straight past the hell is where I was.
I was on a straight path to the wrong spot. But
my wife would tell you, she's like, "You the what?" She's like, "Woo."
Yeah. When I met her, I mean, I was messing up everything 10 ways to Tuesday, from grades to everything, and she straightened me out, put me on the right path, and she's always made me want to be better at everything I do, and it's vice versa. So it goes both ways. So I think that is a lot of people I meet at the high level, that is most of the time a huge turning point, that find that person that's like, all right, now I got to ride or die to go do this.
Yeah.
So that is pretty crazy that, I mean, if I told Mass I was moving to Oregon, she would say, the fuck you are. And
well, my wife said that too. She said, have fun. She stayed right here.
Yeah.
So, that's a funny story too. So my son was getting his white coat up in Chicago. So I flew home from Oregon, and we were putting the house on the market that weekend here in Kansas City. And we put the listing in with our real estate lady and put it coming soon. Boom, boom. We fly to Chicago. We're in Chicago all weekend. And Angie's just, I can tell, you've been married for 29 years. I'm like, something's wrong with it. She ain't acting right. And then Cody's like, Mom, what's wrong or whatever? And she's like, well, my heart's just beating fast in my chest or something. He's like, that's called anxiety, And but anyhow, so we go through the whole thing with him. Well, I fly back to Oregon. She flies back to Kansas City. So like 2 days later, I'm talking to her on the phone. She's like, do you have that schedule Coach Lanning gave you, that like the hours y'all were going to like during season? I'm like, yeah, it's around here somewhere. She's like, well, find it and send it to me.
oh, it's a whole paper. The whole thing is circled. It says all of them.
Yeah. So she looks at it and she goes, so according to this thing, the only night that you're going to be home is Thursday nights. I'm like, Yeah, pretty much. She's like, why am I moving to Oregon if I'm only going to see you one night a week? She's like, I'm going to be a widow. I'm going to be a widow in Kansas City where I know everybody. So she goes, I'm taking a sign out the yard. So she did. She pulled it out and she said, I ain't moving out there. So
That's
so
one
I
way to
just
do it.
shacked up with Jake.
So I got a new roomie.
So a new roomie.
No, but I think it's cool too that she lets you do those things and lets you chase a career and do the things that you enjoy doing, because I think you truly do enjoy coaching. And when you have a talent at doing something, it makes it more enjoyable.
She gets it. She knows that if I was sitting at home, she don't want me sitting at home.
What would you do if you were sitting at home?
I don't know.
Learn how to crochet.
I don't know. Yeah, probably take up some bad habits trying to think I could remodel the house and it'd be a cluster.
Yeah.
Said it was a 2-hammer job. Took me 3 weeks.
So towards the end of every podcast, I always ask, if you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self something that you know today, what would it be?
I don't know if I'd change much. I mean, for real, I think that there's probably things that at the time they were happening, I wish I probably hadn't made that decision. But again, I learned from it. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Maybe not. It's not something that you have to change.
just something I would tell
But-
myself.
But if you told yourself something to focus more on,
I'd invest more money.
invest more. He's like, invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I would invest. That's one thing I told my daughter. She has listened to that, but no one told us that. My
Yeah.
generation is like, and buy land.
Yeah, they never make any more of that.
Yes, they're not making any more land, so buy land. But that'd probably be the thing, is just to make it where you're more secure. But then again, just enjoy the relationships with people that you meet, because again, you never know. I mean, we've all had them, like the guys that come in and out of your life that die too fast, and you wish you would have said this, or you wish you to spend more time. Just those type things. Enjoy relationships with people.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one. Always enjoy relationships with everyone, and that our time is not guaranteed.
Amen.
So, any final thoughts from Logan and Dre down there?
No, we're just peanut gallery
Yep.
down here.
No, I very much appreciate you coming on. I think you have a
I thought
lot.
Logan wanted to talk about some games or something.
I know.
Didn't
We were talking about bringing Logan on, just having a roast session about Excelsior, but
I don't think we need to go there. Let's
But-
just say my junior and senior year ended on Kearney's field.
Yeah.
So.
he's still salty about it. But we got Dawn laughing over
Hey, but that was a great song that played at the end of every game.
Yeah. We'll play that now. Once again, thank you for coming on. And that is going to end the M3 podcast.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.